Hello there, you're watching All 24 News World News program broadcasting to you live from Algiers, and these are tonight's top stories. Dozens killed in Rafah Eid massacre. The UN warns that Gaza fuel crisis is now critical. And ceasefire talks stalled over Gaza seizure plans. Algeria urges activation of EU partnership mechanism as both sides agree to boost efforts for balanced economic ties. And Trump imposes 30% tariffs on EU imports. Brussels warns of global fallout and supply disruptions, while Beijing and Washington are in talks to manage tensions. 4 reports up next. Welcome back to the program. First off, in our news tonight, the Zionist occupation committed a new massacre in Rafah, killing at least 35 people and wounding 180 others near the U.S. Zionist Aid Center in Shakush, north of the city. Most of the victims were starving civilians seeking food, according to Al-Aqsa TV. Zarfar Jani has more now.
In Khan Yunis, grief hangs heavy in the air. Families gathered outside Nasser Hospital to claim the bodies of their loved ones, killed not in battle, but while waiting for a bag of flour near an aid distribution site in Rafah. On Saturday, Zionist occupation forces opened fire near the Shakush aid point in northern Rafah, resulting in the death of at least 27 Palestinians and more than 180 wounded.
Today, more than 150 injuries and more than 20 martyrs around the aid distribution centers. Most of the shot injuries we see are in the head or the torso. We were sitting there and suddenly there was shooting. It was targeted, not random. Some people were shot in the head, some in the torso. One guy next to me was shot directly in the heart.
Among the victims of this brutal attack was Osama Nasser. His mother had begged him not to go.
He said, "Mom, you do not have flour, even if I will die." He left and did not come back to me. Oh God.
The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, backed by the US and Zionist partners, operates some of these aid hubs that have become death traps. According to the UN, the current aid model is inherently unsafe.
They fool us. They say there is food, but there is only death. Every day they lie and say there is a ceasefire, but it's all a lie.
Hundreds of bodies remain unidentified, their names lost beneath white shrouds in overcrowded morgues. Many will never return to their families. In just 6 weeks, the occupation has killed over 800 Palestinians near aid centers. In Gaza, even hope like food is scarce, and often it comes too late, and for far too many, it never arrives.
Similarly, at least 54 Palestinians, mostly women and children, were killed in a wave of Zionist airstrikes across the Gaza Strip, according to Palestinian medical sources. In Gaza City alone, 40 were killed, including 11 in 2 strikes on the Shati refugee camp. 10 more were killed and dozens were trapped under rubble after 2 homes were hit in Jabalia and Nazla. Bombings also struck the neighborhoods of Arimal, At-Tawra, Sheikh Ridwan, Zaytun, Tufah, and the Old City, killing 29 people. In Khan Yunis, 18 displaced civilians were killed as well. A woman and her 3 children died in a strike near the Islamic University. The Palestinian Civil Defense recovered 13 bodies overnight. Additional strikes hit Bani Suhaila, Sheikh Nasser, and Al-Balad, leaving 5 more dead. In central Gaza, 13 were killed in shelling since dawn. Victims included 6 civilians found at a gas station and in a tent on Al-Manasra Street, 2 under rubble in Deir al-Balah, and a young girl killed near a school in Al-Nusayrat. Amid the ongoing and relentless Zionist bombing on Gaza Strip, the Palestinian health authorities report the death toll has risen to 57,882, with 138,095 wounded. In the past 24 hours alone, hospitals received 59 more civilian victims, most of them children and women. WFP Deputy Director Carl Scow warned Friday that Gaza's humanitarian crisis has deteriorated unprecedentedly, with the entire population now food insecure and 500,000 facing starvation due to aid restrictions. Following his Gaza visit, Scow reported worsening malnutrition and deaths as desperate civilians search for food. Additionally, on Saturday, UN agencies sounded the alarm over critical fuel shortages exacerbating Gaza's devastation. 7 agencies jointly warned these shortages compound extreme hardships, including widespread hunger for a population already nearing famine. Similarly, UNRWA warned Saturday that Gaza faces a health catastrophe due to contaminated water, overcrowded shelters, and extreme heat. The agency demanded an end to the blockade and urgent restoration of hygiene aid. It reported 800 Palestinians have died while desperately seeking food, condemning what it called a deadly system forcing starvation-induced displacement. The severe shortage of food and essentials in Gaza is now endangering thousands of pregnant women, putting them at direct risk of starvation and threatening the lives of their babies. According to a report published on the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs website in June 2025, an estimated 55,000 pregnant women in Gaza are facing increasing health risks such as miscarriage, stillbirth, and undernourished newborns.
Milk, eggs, red meat, and leafy vegetables used to help me stay healthy, but now I'm suffering. I need blood transfusions due to severe deficiencies caused by malnutrition. I'm afraid of losing my baby. I'm 6 months pregnant. The situation is very hard. I have anemia, and that could be dangerous. According to my medical file, this is now a high-risk pregnancy.
On the political front, ceasefire negotiations in Gaza have reached a critical impasse after Zionist occupation demanded a partial withdrawal plan that would maintain its military control over 40% of the Strip, according to 2 Palestinian sources briefed on the Doha talks. Hamas has rejected the proposed map disclosed Friday, which outlines Zionist force redeployment rather than full withdrawal, a condition Palestinians see perpetuates occupation under another name. A Palestinian American from Florida was among 2 killed by occupation settlers near Ramallah on Friday, Palestinian sources confirmed. The victim, who had traveled to the West Bank last June to visit his family, was killed after being severely beaten during settler violence. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported 40 others were wounded in clashes between settlers and Palestinians near Sinjil and Al-Mazra'ah Al-Sharqiyya. 60 UK Labour MPs have urged Foreign Secretary David Lammy to immediately recognise the state of Palestine. In a letter reported by The Guardian, they called for formal recognition without delay, saying it would uphold international law and support peace efforts. The MPs also demanded urgent action to stop the Zionist occupation's plan to displace Palestinians in Gaza. In the Middle East development still, Lebanese media reported 1 fatality in a Zionist airstrike Saturday morning when a drone hit a house in Khiyam, southern Lebanon. The victim was identified as a Syrian national, according to local sources in Nabatiya Governorate. And as you followed in our headlines tonight, Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf emphasized the importance of activating the EU-Algeria Partnership Council as the primary mechanism for bilateral cooperation during a phone call with EU Foreign Policy Chief Kai Kallas on Saturday. Discussions focused on advancing relations both through their existing partnership agreement and broader Mediterranean cooperation frameworks, according to a statement from the Algerian Foreign Ministry.
But Russia is escalating the frequency and intensity.
Algeria and the EU also discussed the proposed Mediterranean Charter during their talks, currently under consultation between Brussels and southern Mediterranean nations. Both sides agreed to intensify efforts toward a more balanced economic partnership, one that safeguards mutual interests while promoting Euro-Mediterranean peace, security, and sustainable development, according to Algeria's foreign ministry. The first contingent of Algerian diaspora children arrived to Algeria on Saturday to join nationwide summer camps, part of President Tebboun's initiative hosting 2,000 expatriate youth this season. More on this story with Salman Nasib.
The first group of children from Algeria's overseas community arrived at Houari Boumediene International Airport this week, marking the start of an annual program that will bring 2,000 youth to 9 summer camps across the country. The initiative aims to strengthen ties between expatriates and their homeland while fostering national identity.
We are very, very happy with the warm welcome. We feel proud of our country, Algeria, which has embraced its children. No matter which country we are living in, Algeria remains our homeland and our beloved mother. We thank our Honorable President Abdelmajid Tebboune for this wonderful initiative for the summer camps, so that the children can, God willing, enjoy a pleasant time.
Organized in coordination with the Grand Mosque of Paris, the program demonstrates Algeria's ongoing efforts to maintain ties with the expatriates community, with particular focus on engaging younger generations. Upon arrival, participants expressed appreciation for the opportunity to visit their ancestral homeland. Several children acknowledged President Abdelmajid Tebboune's support for the program, noting its significance for diaspora youth.
I would like to thank the Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune for giving us this opportunity to discover the vast regions of Algeria. It's an experience that doesn't come every day.
Beyond recreation, the camps serve as an educational platform, immersing participants in Algerian culture and history to reinforce their ties to the nation.
All the way to Morocco now. Moroccan associations and parties strongly condemn the Makhzen regime's attacks on activists, journalists and rights defenders, including Mohamed Laghloussi, who faces a complaint from an MP. In a joint statement issued in Marrakesh, they demanded the release of prisoners of conscience and accountability for those implicated in embezzling public funds.
We condemn the assault on freedoms and the increase in repression targeting journalists, bloggers, human rights defenders and trade unionists, as well as judicial proceedings launched against them. We demand the immediate release of prisoners of conscience and those detained for their involvement in social movements. We hold the Moroccan state accountable for upholding the rule of law by prosecuting those who plunder public funds and putting an end to impunity in crimes related to public finances.
Human rights activists in Morocco warned of new legislation aimed at shielding corruption and limiting accountability. Speaking at a Transparency Morocco symposium on Friday, they criticized efforts to sideline the press and civil society from anti-corruption work, highlighting concerns over a draft criminal procedure law that has sparked wide media attention.
We call on the judiciary in Marrakesh to accelerate the handling of corruption and public fund embezzlement cases and to take firm action against those who steal public money. We express our concern over the delays in concluding legal procedures and trials related to the COP22 file and the misappropriation of state property. We fear that the positions and connections of some of the accused in these cases may influence the course of the trials and hinder the delivery of rulings that ensure both individual and general deterrence.
Over 15 Moroccan rights groups and political organizations in Europe have denounced a controversial visit by imams to the Zionist entity, branding it a treasonous normalization with the Zionist occupation. In a fiery statement titled, "Not to the visit of the imams of treason and shame," the coalition accused the delegation of betraying Palestinian solidarity and sparking outrage among progressive forces. Moving on to another global story, U.S. President Donald Trump announced 30% tariffs on EU imports starting August 1st. In a letter to European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, he said the move aims to reduce the trade deficit and warned of even higher tariffs if the EU responds with countermeasures. For her part, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen voiced concern over the U.S. tariff hike, warning it could disrupt vital supply chains. She reaffirmed the EU's commitment to dialogue but vowed to take countermeasures to defend the bloc's interests.
The Union is a major blow to the world economy.
A 30% tariffs on EU exports would disrupt vital transatlantic supply chains, hurting businesses and consumers on both sides. The EU remains committed to a negotiated solution with the US, is ready to reach an agreement by August 1st. However, we will take necessary and proportionate countermeasures if needed to protect EU interests.
US-EU trade relations are deteriorating as a tariff war looms. While Brussels pushing for a negotiated settlement to avoid escalation, Washington maintains its hardline stance, risking further strain on transatlantic trade. Salman Nasir reports again now.
As the US and EU diverge on fair trade and economic sovereignty, their trade relationship stands at a critical crossroads. This partnership, accounting for 30% of global trade and supporting over 15 million jobs on both sides of the Atlantic, has long maintained a delicate balance, despite underlying tensions. With Donald Trump's return to the White House under the America First banner, the dynamic has shifted. Europe is no longer viewed as a partner, but as a direct trade rival. Trump has accused the EU of being designated to deceive the US and weaken its economy.
The European Union was formed in order to take advantage of the United States on trade. That was why they were formed, and they're nasty. They're very nasty. We have a good relationship. I'm dealing with Ursula right now and the group, but it's a very tough situation. They have been unbelievably bad to us. If you look at past precedents, they've treated them very badly. They're being very nice to me because I get it. I know the system, and we have the cards. We have the cards far more than they do.
In response, the EU has activated economic diplomacy, offering a conditional settlement that includes a unified 10% tariffs in exchange for exemptions in key sectors.
The message today is clear. We are ready for a deal. At the same time, we are preparing for the possibility that no satisfactory agreement is reached. This is why we consulted on a rebalancing list, and we will defend the European interest as needed. In short, all options remain on the table.
Point of America,
As talks resume, Trump remains focused on freeing American industry. The future now hangs on a fragile balance between protectionism and openness. Will negotiations restore equilibrium, or is a new phase of escalation ahead?
In a related story, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said Saturday that his talks with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio focused on improving communication, avoiding miscalculations, and managing bilateral disputes. During a press briefing, Wang stressed that both nations share responsibility to find the right path forward, a move he said would benefit their citizens and offer hope for global stability.
If this dialogue can be summed up in 4 key terms, they are strengthening communication, preventing miscalculation, managing differences, and deepening cooperation. Both sides acknowledge that the China-US relationship is the most consequential bilateral relationship in the world, one that affects not only both nations, but the global community as a whole.
Shifting focus to the war in Sudan. Sudanese army forces launched a successful operation Saturday in Al-Fasher, recapturing two key positions, the Central Reserve site and Shala, west of the city. Military sources said the move came after a tactical withdrawal and a rapid support forces attack the day before. The army also announced it had neutralized a large number of RSF fighters who had infiltrated the city's southern axis. Sudanese media reported cautious calm in Al-Fasher as the army bombardments continued with drone support, while RSF drones intensified their activity over the city. UNICEF reported Friday a sharp rise in acute malnutrition among children in Sudan's Darfur region, with cases up to 46% in the first 5 months of the year. The agency warned that malnutrition rates now exceed WHO emergency thresholds in most areas. Turning to other news, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi reaffirmed Tehran's commitment to a diplomatic solution on the nuclear issue Saturday. Addressing foreign diplomats in Tehran, he warned that any move by Europe to reimpose sanctions would end its role in the talks.
Iran remains committed to building trust through diplomacy, but before that can happen, our counterparts must demonstrate that their intentions are genuine, that diplomacy is not a facade for hidden agendas. If the snapback mechanism is triggered to reinstate international sanctions on Iran's nuclear program, it would effectively end Europe's role in the nuclear negotiations.
Moving on to the war in Ukraine, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reported at least 2 dead and 40 wounded in Russian shelling of the Chernivtsi in western Ukraine Saturday night. Strikes elsewhere killed 2 in Dnipro-Petrovsk and injured 12 in Lviv and 3 in Kharkiv. The attacks involved drones and missiles. That's the end of our news program for tonight. For more updates, you can always check our social media platforms, YouTube, X, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as our website. I'm Islam Sid. Thank you for tuning in. Till next time, take care.